Hello, hello. This is an after hours advanced witchcraft, advanced magical focused conversation. Because Brigida and I, I'm Taren S. Y'all know who I am at this point. Let's be real. And you newbie witches, you need to listen to this. This is some good wisdom. Brigida and I, we filmed a video and we sat here. We were imbibing the spirit juice to all you Christian witches, and of course Valerie. I know it's Jesus juice. But we were talking about empowerment, because it's a really big thing, is to be empowered. Well, it's our belief, but at the same time,
more people are coming to the witchcraft tradition as a way of empowering themselves too.
And at the same time, I was telling her a story about some of my training. Within the American, and I'm very careful to say these words, within the American side of Papa Nico's Haitian house. And the training, and that for us, you don't disrespect your elders. When Papa says something, Papa says something. We don't. And how, for us, part of our empowerment is learning our humility.
Yes, and so what I was saying in this outside discussion before we decided to turn that camera back on was sometimes you really need to have humility in your practice, because you are working with interesting powers. Mm-hmm. Sometimes if you're called to a divine aspect or specifically named God, if you just show up and you are all empowered and you go, I want this, guess what? It's not maybe going to go so well for you. Gods have their own powers. Well, it's kind of the same thing when it comes to mentors, teachers, priests, priestesses, whatever you want to call it, that if you do not show your reverence and humility towards them, it's kind of the same way if you've been disrespected, why would you want to continue to engage with somebody like that that's disrespected you, right? And sometimes as part of teaching and training, sometimes things happen that you at the time don't understand, but in hindsight, it was a really powerful lesson in humility.
I'm an old Southern hoodoo low country witch. Could I've used enough words to describe myself?
Labels.
And I know labels, and I don't, because I'm just a witch. I practice witchcraft. I did it in South Carolina, and I was so privileged to work with an amazing High Priestess. She has since passed the veils and everything, and my time with her was too short. She was already older when I met her. Mm-hmm. And I got the really wisdom side of her.
Crone aspects.
Yes, but I got that tough crone aspect.
Ooh, yeah.
That she just didn't have time for stupid questions. And I embraced that, and I really enjoyed that truth with her. She was a very blunt woman. And then later on in life, I have the privilege of working with Papa Nico, a Haitian voodoo priest, in which is crusty There's that.
I would just like to say that was not my impression. Just putting it out there.
Well, yes. Yes, there is another video on Brigida Meets the Haitian Voodoo Priest, where she talks about her personal experiences with dealing with him. Within the Conjuring community, I don't care what your tradition is, we are a tough people for a reason. And I've learned that through Papa. And I was telling her that I'm a High Priestess, but in the right circumstances, I will drop to my knees. All right, I have no false pride. I know that is the worst place for me to be. And it's about going to your knees. It's about humility. All right, and really knowing that this person he knows things. He needs to be shown respect. She knows things. She needs to be shown respect.
Very much so.
All right. And within the hoodoo community at large, we are very much about showing respect to our elders.
Yes. And, you know, there are elders that are just coming into their powers now. Like, they're just realizing that they're a witch.
That they're elders.
Yeah, or that they're elders.
Well, most of the time you don't know.
No, you've just been doing something your whole life.
For so long until somebody looked, and I know me personally, I walked in and I was like, oh, I'm the oldest person here.
It happens. But then there's other people that are young that have been, you know, practicing for a really long time. You know, they figured it out early on that they are of a certain persuasion of witch or Wiccan or whatever, you know, conjure, whatever you want to call yourself, whatever label suits you.
I'm like, yeah, we're not trying to disrespect anybody.
No. But we're talking about your experience, though, as if you've gotten to the point where you are considered either an elder or you are considered somebody who has earned this respect as a teacher of some kind, where even if you walk in on equal ground, if you're a high priestess to a high priestess, I have a lot of respect for this woman, and there is nothing that I wouldn't do to help her in some form or fashion, because
I have a lot of respect for her too.
yeah, I know. I know it's mutual. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here, right? And she wouldn't have invited me. It's a mutual thing. But it's the same thing with Papa Nico and meeting him. And for me, it was, you know, I've only had heard stories for years of meeting this person. I'm going to go into that in another thing. But there was a palatable energy to the area when he was around. And that's something, I am very energetically sensitive to that type of thing. And I could tell her energy shifted when he walked in the room, because she has a reverence for him and she respects this person and she has learned a lot from him. And there is that energy between them where, yes, they are on equal footing in a way, and yet not. She very much respects that. And as she said, she would drop to her knees and, you know, do whatever is necessary to humble herself. And I get that. And that's something I think, it's a little more advanced, I think, for a lot of newer witches to understand, is that, you know, when we're all coming into this whole thing and we're like, ooh, empowerment, and ooh, I'm going to do the spell for this, and ooh, I've met these cool people, and we all want to do this stuff. When it starts to become more of a practice.
And then you're like once you get involved, you're like, no, honey, don't do that.
Yeah. And there's people that just might know a little bit better, and they might be trying to help, and not necessarily, it might come across weird sometimes, like they might know better than you, and it's not that they're trying to put themselves above you, maybe they really just know better, where it's like, you don't want to cast that. You really don't want to cast that. And then there's others that are like, go cast it, let's do it, you know, because they got your back. But it's knowing that right type of thing where it's, if somebody tells you maybe no, and then maybe you know yourself.
We are within the magical community at large. Mm-hmm. We don't have enough elders. I wish I could tell you that we had an overpopulation of them. We got a lot of wannabes that put their printout on their personal printer, their title, frame on their wall, and make the announcement. Real elders have been there, done that. They got stories to tell within the community.
And then you have others that are very reluctant, and I do not consider myself an elder, and heck, I very, very rarely consider myself a high priestess. I call myself the reluctant high priestess because I was essentially gifted this role by the people who put me in this role.
Well, that's how it, right? But we're all gifted it by the people that we stand in circle with.
But do I consider myself an elder? No. Do I know a lot of stuff? Yeah, sure, and I can help teach and do that type of stuff.
Well, I think that's the flip side of what humility is what we're talking about.
I shrink away from that title.
For me, for years, I would be like, to call me an elder,
right?
I would be like,
Yeah.
There are some smart people on the other side of the room. I've done talk to them. They know more than I do. And to slowly embrace that role, to embrace the role of a high priestess, to embrace the role of a spiritual leader.
It's hard.
This is my personal belief. I believe it should be a reluctant. It should be based within humility. It should not be about ego, and ooh, I get to make a business card that now has my name on it that says, ooh, Taren S, High Priestess. That should be and it took me actually a decade before I made that business card, just for the record, so y'all know. Because the first time I saw it, I was like, oh my goodness gracious, it's got my name on it. I was just like, same thing. Yeah. The reluctant High Priestess. Our best spiritual leaders in our community grew into that role slowly. They grew into it with humility, understanding that the role that they're taking on becomes a voice for many folks to listen to. All right? I'm well aware of all you wonderful newbie witches out there, and you're like, oh, Taren S said. So I really do, right before I do a video, give myself a second and ask the goddess to give me wise words to speak to you. Because I know these words carry weight. And I don't want to guide any of you folks wrong, all right? My intention is always from the best of places.
Same.
Not to say that I cannot say something stupid.
Same.
I cannot give bad advice, all right? That I can't make an offhanded, off-colored comment that I ought not have said.
We're all human.
All right? This isn't saying that somehow I can do it. I can do it. I'm perfect.
All we do is try.
But when you are taking on and you want to work with a mentor, you want to work with a teacher, your aspiration is to be a high priestess one day. You're looking at us going, okay, how do I get where they're at? And I'm going to tell you that we did it with humility. We did it with the ability to drop to our knees, all right, and give honor, reverence, and respect to those elders in our community and also in our spiritual realms.
And to have an open mind and to listen to people's words and wisdom, because maybe they don't resonate with yours, and maybe they do, and maybe they might change your perspective and open your mind to something that is completely new and different. Because let me tell you, I've met, in the short amount of time that I have been running my group, I've been a pagan for a lot longer, and through a little bit of a lineage through my mother's side of the family, but I have to say, it's totally humbling to have people come to you and ask you to teach them or be their spiritual leader. It's really hard sometimes because you're just like, no. And then other times you take up that mantle and you run with it because there's nobody else that's going to do it. And it depends on the certain circumstances that come up, and it's not going to be the same for every single person. But I have to say, I am incredibly humbled to be called a high priestess. And every time somebody calls it to me, I still kind of have that like, are you talking about me? No, you're not talking about me. Oh, you're talking about me. Okay, this is awkward. And maybe one day it'll sit a little bit better. And it's, over the last few years, it has gotten a little bit better where I've been able to call myself a high priestess. And if I didn't have those people behind me, though, pushing me forward in that role, I wouldn't be calling myself that, because in many ways we never feel like we earn it, even if we have done a lot of work and we've done a lot of things, because again, we all have that voice that is inside of our head sometimes that messes with us. But then we also have those elders that come to us, like this one, who's literally like, put her hand on my leg and is like, honey, you've been doing this, just accept it. You are doing it. You are a high priestess. And I'm like, okay. Okay.
These are the real life journeys within traditional witchcraft. It is our folks that recognize our spiritual leader, light, high priest, high priestess. It's not for somebody else to give me the title. It's not for someone else. She didn't go off to school. She didn't go to high priestess school, get her certificate, came back and told people, I am a high priestess. It was her folks that were circling around her.
Yes.
It was her folks that she had been working with for several years. All right? And that's back to you newbie witches' patience. But she worked this energy All right, she was out there doing the sabbats, out there making activities available, out there counseling folks.
Yep.
All right, and it was her people that was like, this is our high priestess. All right, and it was for Brujita at that point to recognize it within herself. And as we've talked, that transformation should be one of humility, not of, I have a title and you don't. I mean, this to totally,
Yes.
because I've met a couple of those people in our community, and I know you newbie people, you, all of a sudden somebody says there's a high priestess, and you're like, ah!
Yeah.
Be aware of the fact that some of these people have given themselves that title versus the high priestess in which the people have recognized that within. All right? And those are the ones you're looking for. Those are your teachers. And they're going to be tough. I mean, I was telling stories with some of the things Papa Nico. There was times that he's made me cry. All right? And I still came back. There was times I got my ass handed to me. There was times that I had to apologize for things I didn't do, and which really took me a while to embrace, because I had this really deep sense of pride within myself, and understanding that that pride, that's false pride, and it needs to be stripped away. And when some of your teachers and mentors ask hard things of you, all right, they're really wanting, they're supporting, they're hoping that you rise to the occasion. I'm hard on some of my witches here, and they'll be the first to tell you I am hard. I do not coddle. I don't give it to you. Because what I want to see ultimately is that you're going to drop to your knees for who you are, for your beliefs, all right? And that you're going to hold true to yourself. And when I see that, then I know I'm dealing with the real thing, and that I need to open up every book, every fiber of myself to this person, because this is a person that carries us on to the next generation. All right? Everything I have within me ain't worth a crap if I can't give it to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Our elders are walking libraries. I mean...
Well, and it's also, again, that empowerment aspect, too. Like, we are here to empower the next people. We are not here to sit on a throne and have minions. It's not about minions. It is not about, oh, look at me. It should never be about, look at me. Ever. It should always be about, how can I build up the next generation of witches? How can I make this go forward somehow? What does it take? And sometimes, again, it's humility. And it might be like you have a new witch that comes in, and their mindset is completely different from yours, and it's going to be a challenge for you just as much as it's a challenge for them. And guess what? That's a good lesson, and it's a good lesson for both of you. And when you can sit down with that witch and pass on whatever you can, and they still throw it back in your face and go, okay, that was maybe not the most appropriate thing, and let's see if we can switch it to this instead because that feels more right for me. Guess what? That's what's going to be right for the next generation, especially for that witch. And that's where that humility still sticks with you even as a high priestess.
Yes.
I may be empowering that next generation. She may be empowering that next generation. But let me tell you, we learn lessons all the time. All the time.
You guys teach me lessons. When I get those comments, I'm really reading them. I'm sitting there thinking about them.
Oh, yeah.
And what can I do? All right. I started this channel with the idea that I wanted to give back what was given to me. And I'll try to keep the theme of my videos to basically empowering folks in their magical life, and even if it goes into your personal life, you know, good too. But just about empowerment, because that's what was given to me. I look back on my 40-year journey, and I'm just so grateful for the magical community. Mm-hmm. But at the same time of all this empowerment talk,
yes,
we forget to talk about the flip side, which is the humility, and learning to really show respect, honor, reverence to not only divinity, spiritual realms, but to our mentors, to our teachers, and those elders that are in our communities. We have some really good ones.
Yeah, we do.
All right.
Sometimes they're hard to find, but just keep looking.
I promise you they're out there. All right? I do. And it doesn't matter what your magical tradition is or where you're looking. Please keep getting out under that full moon and just letting divinity know you're ready for a teacher. You're ready for a mentor. All right? One of the stories Brigitte and I have was I, from South Carolina, did magic wondering why I was coming to California and everything. And basically, without getting into too long a story, Magic Done said that there was a high priestess out there who didn't know she was a high priestess. Come to find out, Brigitte's on the other side of the coast doing magic, asking for a teacher to come her way. And the universe hooked us up.
Happens.
Make a real long story short, because there were some twists and turns, as everything in it. But we came into, and as soon as I sat down in front of her, I was like, oh my goodness, this is the one. And over the past 3.5 years has repeatedly shown this is the one. And I'm just so grateful that I get to journey. And she's taught me when we talk about, you're like, and I'm thinking, no, really, I look at my students, sometimes I feel guilty and feel like my students teach me more than I teach them.
Yeah, it happens. It really does.
And
you sit there and you're like, am I giving you enough? Am I doing
And really,
enough?
and I got a good course of study. I don't cut no slack on no one. But they said, they ask me a question, or they make just a short statement.
And then your mind goes,
yes.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
And I walk around for 3-4 days over what some newbie witch just...
Yeah, and you get like a book of notes that you're like scribbling, and then you look back and you're like, why did I write that? Yeah.
They were just... Yeah, there's like the innocence of babes and newbie folk.
Yeah.
You're tuned in a way and you speak truths. Mm-hmm. So don't discount your voice.
Yeah. You may feel like you don't know what you're doing, or you don't know where to start, or anything like that, but let me tell you, those questions you ask, even if we've heard it a million times, the way you rephrase it might trigger something in our minds that goes, whoa, I didn't think about it that way, and then, yeah.
You know, and when we're talking about empowerment, we're not talking about pride.
No.
And that false pride that a lot of us have within us, you know, I will never, and understanding that when we're talking about humility, we're not talking about lowering ourselves, debasing ourselves,
yes.
or any of that. In fact, and I know this within the Parasite, when we do at the house, we will have a center pillar, and it normally has a Damballa, a snake representation.
Oh, okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then from that, everything flows outward. Mm-hmm. And it's very common, and I know when I go up there, I always, on my knees, this is the ultimate for this tradition, this magic system.
Right.
This is the ultimate expression of divinity, and when you get around that energy, you feel it. Mm-hmm. I don't feel like I'm lowering myself. I feel like I'm showing respect and showing that form, that aspect, that energy of divinity that I get you. I respect you. And
it's never, it's a lot, one of the things I've seen on the internet, there's a few memes that have gone around and stuff about like, we don't lower ourselves to our gods. We stand and open with open arms. True. Yeah.
But
sometimes it is good to show a little humility, because, I mean, they're gods. and
it's empowering when you are on your knees and opening yourself up. You are saying, I want to experience this. I want to learn this.
Yeah, so if I came to Taren and I was like, standing really tall and I was like, give me all of your magic. Tell me all of your secrets.
You know what I'd say to her, don't you?
But if I was sitting here with humility and respect and honor, and I sit here and like, hey, so, teach me about your magic. Teach me about yourself. What do you know? That's going to go off a lot easier and get a little bit more, knowledge out of that versus somebody who's going to come up with a lot of arrogance and pride. You don't want that. You do want to have some humility.
And when I'm talking about dropping to my knees, this may not actually be physically on. Yes, sometimes it is physically on my knees, but other times it's energetically.
Yeah.
Kneeling.
Some people can't actually physically kneel too, for whatever reason, right? Doesn't
but
mean
you can energetically.
Exactly. Yeah.
You can still show that reverence, that respect for the entity, the energy, or y'all hear it, don't you? I left the door open because I was hoping to keep a little bit of a breeze. I'm not real because I don't edit. I ain't got time for that. I'm just saying.
It's true. It's true.
I am not a film editor. I got other things to take care of, and I'm not trying to be some polished witchy channel. I'm trying to teach y'all what was taught to me, what was taught to her, freely. All right, we were so blessed to be around folks in the magic community that gave all of this information to us pretty much freely. Yeah. All right? Yeah, we had to pay our dues. We had to show up. We had to do all the things we talked about. All right? That was the idea, was to be able to give this back. We're giving you the opportunity, to High Priestesses. We're telling you this is how the magic community is. You want to get involved? Listen.
Have some respect.
Have some respect. When you're on that empowerment course, in which you can't get enough of it. I know y'all got those broken record players in your head telling you negative messages. At the same time, do not let empowerment become false pride. Yeah. All right? Do not let empowerment become that brash attitude. What's those words?
Yeah, the arrogance.
And arrogance. Yeah. That's not empowerment.
No, and sometimes we need bravado.
Ooh, good word.
Yeah, it's a good
I like
word, right?
that one.
Sometimes we need that in our spell work, because sometimes we do need to amp ourselves up and put on a false confidence. But that's not necessarily the same as arrogance. When you come into something, like I said, if I were to sit down next to Taren and demand of her, it's the same thing with the gods, and also kind of with magic. If you don't understand that what you're doing is something that's powerful and can, if it wants to go the other way, well, you're gonna maybe get bit in the butt a little bit by your own magical process, just so you know. Because if we are sitting here and I decide to do a working and I'm doing something and I demand that working works, versus asking for it to work and putting that intention that it will work, it's gonna work very differently on either aspect of it. Maybe this will work, but it might come back on me, and maybe this one will work, but maybe not as much as I want it to, because I didn't have enough of that confidence. There's a little bit of practice and experimentation that needs to happen.
The balance of empowerment. Yeah. Empowerment
balance.
Does confidence, but it's not about being rude and all of a sudden I know something you don't know. That's not empowerment. No. All right? Empowerment's when you have confidence enough in yourself to listen to somebody else's belief systems, somebody else's opinions, and it doesn't threaten yours. It doesn't diminish yours.
If anything, you learned something from it.
Absolutely, yeah. I do actually like listening to a really completely flip side. I'll be just sitting there never thought about that.
Right.
And I try to approach it very open, where I'm not gonna, because a lot of times we're not listening. We're already making a preconceived argument in our head, or we're already coming up with our own statement.
Yes. And if you are actively sitting there listening to somebody only to respond, then you're not listening and you're not learning.
And when your
That's
teachers and your, that's right. And that's what your teachers and your mentors, and when you're in an apprenticeship program, honey, we're aware of that. All right. And if you don't think I can't take one of these young witches and just knock her down off of that little pedestal she's put herself on, a false pride, and I do it out of kindness. I do it knowing that this is the best thing I could have done for her. All right, because if I let her stay up on it, it ain't going to help her none.
Yeah.
All right, and the best thing to do is to keep it real with them. Because you do get this sense of, I know stuff you don't know. And we have to keep that in balance as you get further in your studies. Yes, your powers will increase.
Well, experience too. I mean, everything comes with experience, time, practice, and knowledge. And again, if you're only listening to respond and sitting in a prideful place, then you're not learning. And then that's also going to diminish your practice, which is your experience and you know, trying to do good magic. So if you sit there and you open up yourself to whatever messages come through, because sometimes the divine works through people and is sending you messages.
And your waiter will tell you things.
Or some random, okay,
Just saying.
walking down the street, person you think is, you know, just spouting out and saying things. I stopped and listened because that was a message, and I got that message, and it was a really interesting message. My husband kept walking, I listened, and it was, yeah, anyway, that's a whole other video.
I'm just saying, your waiter gives you message, and the waiter doesn't know you're giving you messages. So it's even, but they say things, and I'm like looking at this waiter like, you're saying same thing, and I'm like, oh my God. Oh no.
The salmon is free range.
He got on a little jibber jabber and started talking, but it was what I needed to hear.
Right, yeah.
But back to what we're talking about, that empowerment and humility. When you are listening to someone with an open mind, that is a form of humility.
Yeah.
All right? That is where you are going, okay, maybe I don't know best. Maybe I can learn something from this person. All right? That is humility. We often think of humility in relationship to pride. Either I have pride or I'm being humble. All right? And in our society, we equate humble to being weak.
Yeah.
Not understanding within that humility is the most strength that you can find. All right? And I felt it when I dropped, like I said earlier, with, you know, in the parasol, Dumbala and the snake, and I dropped to my knees. Honey, I feel empowered. I am 10 feet tall inside. I've been connected to one of the oldest forms of divinity that is known. All right? When I walk out of that ritual, I don't even think I'm touching ground.
Mm.
All right? But just the act of bringing myself down and putting my head down and giving that reverence, it just opens me up to the most amazing empowerment and just that deep sense of connected and belonging. All right? You know, and so when your mentors, your teachers, and for you young apprentice out there, Shango Petit, you know I'm going to make you watch this video and make a comment on this. The color I said was red.
Oh, you're so bad.
I know. Because you know what happens now. Shango Petit don't tell me the color, then I know he didn't watch the video. That's how sly some of us old folk are. Honey, I've been in magic circles for 40 years. I know. All right? You can't lie to divinity, and it's damn hard to lie to a high priestess. All right?
Especially on video.
And when we stand there and we're nodding our heads saying that's interesting, you need to think about what you're saying to us. Mm-hmm. At that point, we know that we got some work to do with you. And it's a hard journey for you new witches out there. We ask a lot of you. And I really respect your journey, because you got to come out of modern society, and we're asking you to take everything that you know and take it out of your head. We're asking you to have faith in things you can't see.
Yeah.
we're asking you to have faith in folks that you're just not quite sure how truly twisted they are. You know, I mean, but what this journey is about is being the best you that you can be. All right? And if you're called to put on that pointy black hat and to embrace that witchy mantle, no matter where your path is, all right, do it with humility, and you are going to have the universe open up to you in ways that you did not know possible.
Yep.
All right, and you are going to find yourself being privileged and honored to stand in many, many different magical, spiritual circles, groups, whatever they want to call it.
Yes.
That's the best journey that we can all possibly have.
Yes, I would agree.
You know, it's sitting in cathedrals.
Yes.
You know, sitting in temples, recognizing that spirituality exists everywhere.
Yes. And sometimes it might not be your words and your vibe, but sometimes they are connecting to the same energy. Just be open to it.
And no matter what, show respect. You know?
Yeah. Again, be open to it.
You know, she was telling the story about when she had the privilege of sitting in a cathedral.
Yeah, it was Evensong in London and in the choiry, and it was, I don't remember the sermon, I don't remember the songs, but it was, the choir was there, and I got to sit in the pews that had the dukes and duchesses of time and the Pope's chair and like all of this stuff, and I've been a pagan my whole life, and I connected so hard to divinity at that time that I felt the resonance of the song and the power that was in that cathedral. Have I been back? No. Do I, like I said, do I remember anything that was said? No. Do I remember anything else about it? Really, just the beauty of it and how it made me feel.
The energy.
Yeah, how it made me feel. And I connected to that, and they were all connected. And it was them that was, very Christian in its concepts and everything, and it was beautiful. And it's a very powerful memory for me. I love that memory.
We can all connect to divinity outside our personal norms.
Yeah.
All right, you know, the personal norm of most witches is within a goddess, divine, feminine energy. That does not mean we can't go sit in a cathedral. And
most of them are built on pagan temple places anyway.
But the sacredness of that space, and that we should show honor, we should show reverence and respect.
Yeah.
And if one of the bishops, I don't know who's priest,
yeah.
cardinal,
Not sure.
who's in a cathedral, people, does anybody actually know? We're going to go with the bishop, because that sounds like a good title, doesn't it? But if the bishop shows up, we're still going to show him the utmost respect.
Of course, always.
All right, don't understand, don't connect with, but I darn sure get and feel what these folks are creating. Mm-hmm. And that's what matters.
And they put in their time and their energy, and they've been doing it a long time. You know, it's not that I don't believe that they believe. It's that doesn't jive with me, and that's fine. That's their practice. This is my practice. Mm-hmm. But I can still sit there and honor them and show them that respect, and be a part of that moment in time with them, because their way of connecting to divinity may be completely different than mine. Right. But guess what? I felt it. I was there, and it was amazing.
And that's what we have to be careful with. Yeah, she's like, she did the goosebumpy thing because she's talking. You're like, all of a sudden you're like, I felt it.
Yeah.
With this empowerment, and I'm going to embrace my witchiness, and I'm going to embrace the goddess, the divine feminine energy. All right. Please do not develop false pride. Get yourself out of balance. And understand that there are so many ways to connect with divinity. And for some it's within a masculine aspect, for some feminine, for some it's lots, for some it's just one, for some it's none.
Yeah.
They don't even view divine to have a gender, sexual, nothing like that. It's just the one. But we can experience other people's way of connecting if we open ourselves up, if we use a little humility that we don't know it all, and go sit in there and allow the bishop of the cathedral. Again, I don't know if that's right. But we can allow that experience to happen. We can experience it. We can allow that ourselves to be a part of it. All right? And when we talk about empowerment, all right, do not close yourself down as you are trying to empower you.
Yes.
I think for a lot of you young witches, we teach you these mantras of, I'm a goddess, I'm powerful, I'm divine. And we also need to teach you that there are energies, folks out there that you need to show a little respect to.
Yeah.
And these people are really trying to guide you well. Okay? You get involved in a good group, a good tradition. All right? The folks that come out here to the cottage for me, these are my folks. I take it personal. I want them all to do well. I ultimately want them to be to the point to disagree with me. I mean, I want them to be empowered to tell Taren to go sit down.
No!
You know, yeah, that ain't happened yet, but we're waiting.
Well, and I feel the same way. It's if you ever come across somebody that you don't feel that way about, that you don't feel like you want to empower them or you don't feel comfortable with, then you shouldn't be working with them. That's another thing too, because that's a red flag for yourself. And I've come across that. I'm sure she's come across that, where this isn't the right relationship. I'm sorry. Like, nope, this isn't going to work out. Or you're not right for this group. It happens. And if it does happen to you, I'm sorry, number one. It happens, though, because we are all different and we're all humans, and sometimes it's just not the right fit. You know, maybe you're into, herbology and are super into wanting to do spell casting with herbs, and the group that you found does not do any of that. Well, that's going to kind of stifle something that you're already interested in. And while you may get accepted for a time and maybe are integrating something, like if it just doesn't work out, just allow yourself to be humble and understand that this isn't the right group for you. And it might be just as hard for you as it is for the other people to say that. Because sometimes you don't want there to be that conflict. You don't want to close yourself off.
We are so happy when someone comes and it's like, yeah, I think always. I like your group.
Yeah, and we're like, great, cool, let's see if we like you too and see if this all works out. It just sometimes doesn't.
And there's times that, and honestly, that the kindest thing we can do is tell you no.
Yeah. We
are setting you up for other opportunities. And at that point, we need you to have faith that they're coming. That there is a group out there that is for you.
Well, and sometimes you got to be that person that starts their own group and finds the people that you need to find.
And if you had stayed with that group, or if you tried to make that group work that wasn't a good fit, then you would be in the wrong place to allow what the universe has in plans for you. Yeah. You understand what I'm saying? All right? If you're so like, oh my God, I found this group, I want to be in this group, I have to, and the group says no, and you're like, oh no. All right, dude, that's what the universe is saying. They're opening you up for better things. They got plans for you.
Yeah.
You just got to have the faith that you're starting your own group. Yeah. Where does a tradition start? With the first person. All right? We talk about these lineages and these traditions within witchcraft lines. Within the British Isles, we have some going back 300 years. Here in America, we're up to 200 years. But where did it start? With one person, and that person might be you. Yeah. All right? And you're thinking, I ain't got a group. I don't have no one. But you got 2 or 3 friends that y'all are getting together and doing something good with. I hate to tell you, you got a group, okay? And embrace them. Don't look at what you don't have. Look at what you do have.
Yeah, and don't think you need to live up to Hollywood standards. Like, just start out with what you got.
We are not Hollywood standards.
If you like tea, and y'all are getting together and having tea, start with tea. If there's a book that you like, and y'all have read it, read the book and talk about it. If you like tarot cards, and you've found other people that like tarot cards, guess what? You got a group.
There you go. Work it. All right. Every tradition started with the first person who had the guts to do it. That's all it took. Is that they had confidence in themselves, divinity, they had faith that this was the right thing I'm going to do. They had the guts and they did it. They didn't listen to what other folks were saying. Because if you listen to other folks, they'll tell you, no, you can't do it. All right?
Yeah.
And it don't matter what you're doing. Folks will always say, no, you can't do it.
Or they think they can do it better.
Yes.
Sometimes they can't. No, give yourself a moment here. Just for real. Sometimes maybe you're a terrible organizer. It happens too. And you really just want a group, but somebody comes along and they're amazing at organizing. Let them. It's the kindest thing you can do to yourself too. I have some amazing people in my group, as does she. Let them do something. It helps you. So if they're really good at planning, let them plan. If they're really good at cooking, let them cook. Things like that. Help yourself out too. That's the humility factor right there. Don't be prideful in having to do everything yourself. Because as somebody who's a little bit of a control freak, I can totally say I have done myself a huge disservice over time with trying to do everything myself. We want you to help. Really, we do. Sometimes we just have a little hard time letting it go. But then once we do, we're like, no, I don't want it back. I don't want it back. You do it all.
It takes a group, and we all, within, like which was speaking, I'm within my group as well. People take care of things that I don't even know what they're doing anymore. That's their thing. They do it. I know they're doing it. You cannot micromanage every detail. When I hear about somebody tell me I used to be a high priest, all I'm listening to is somebody tell me I was an absolute control freak and I burnt myself out because I tried to do everything. Instead of being a team player, like what you said with, I know she organizes, I know he's really good on social media, I know that she's really good at sitting up and decorating.
Yeah, it can be really simple things like somebody starting a fire.
And
let them be that person.
And we actually, do you want to know what the office is in our group for the fire people? Okay, we have our title holders within the group. We have different offices and everything. And for fire safety purposes, only the person who is the fire safety officer is allowed to handle fire. He is the sword of flaming justice, is what his title is in our group. Just to let you guys know, you don't have to take this all seriously. And the sword of flaming justice is in charge of all things fire. No one else is allowed to touch the fire for safety purposes. But the guy that does our fire, he's good at it. He really doesn't want to get involved in ritual or circle. Serafina's boyfriend.
Yep.
I can't say his name on. We'll call him Bill. Bill. Or Bob. I like to call everything Bob too.
Billy Bob.
Or Billy Bob. But he likes the fire. His energy is fire. So he's in charge of fire. Okay. I never worry about my fire. I don't think about it.
Yep.
All right.
But that's again that humility aspect of like letting that go, of being something like I don't have to worry about that.
I don't have to. He's better than I am. You don't have to be the better, best.
And she's empowered this person to do a job, even if they don't necessarily feel they're part of the circle or, you know, dealing with that energy, and maybe that's not for them, but they have now a role and a job, and that's a huge empowerment.
And so it's not about only empowering ourselves.
Yeah, it's always about empowering others. others.
It's about empowering the folks around us. And when we raise up others, then ourselves are raised up. All right? So when we're talking about this whole empowerment thing, and we want to counterbalance that with talking to y'all folks about a little about humility. I know we talked a little bit to some of you newbie witches out there about the humility of a high priestess, in which y'all are like, high priestesses have humility? They're just like, oh my gosh, I've never seen two high priestesses together. We have the same story you have. We have the same doubts. We have those same issues. Our lives are just as messy as yours are at times. What's the difference between you and us? We've put tools in our toolbox. We've kept our connection to divinity. We work in faith. Sometimes I don't know how it's going to happen, but I do know it's going to.
Yeah.
And that's all that matters to me. Mm-hmm. And we could sit here and ramble through the evening, but to be quite honest, y'all, we got to shoot another video before she leaves me, because it's always nice getting another priestess type up here. And so I want to use my time wisely with her, and I know you guys will appreciate that. And at the end of this video, because I done tagged Shango Petit in it, I'm also gonna tag Drew, and tell me what you think about all this, sweetheart. You know I respect your opinion. You're my beautiful YouTube witch sister, that it seems like as soon as I put out a video, I done heard that you put it out before me. That's
same wavelength. Yeah,
same wavelength. She's just this most amazing world. And so we're going to say thank you to Brahita. And you know that I'm wishing that your day was just as bright and blessed as mine was. So I'm going to leave it at that. And of course, amen, blessed be, ashe, and a bobo.